Let's talk about one of the most devastating, powerful weapon systems that every US military infantry unit has at their disposal, the MK-19 automatic grenade launcher. It's essentially a grenade machine gun, and they give service members plenty of bang for their governmental buck. Stick around till the end of the video to learn about the new Mark-47 grenade launcher that those high speeds over at Special Forces have. Use me as a point of reference for what low speed is, or at least that's what my squad leader always told me.
Hey everyone, I'm Cappy. Welcome to Task and Purpose.
The Mark-19 is a 40mm automatic grenade launcher that was designed and built in the early 1960s during the Vietnam War by the US Naval Ordnance Station to outfit Navy swift boats with a more destructive crew-served weapon to look at while they worked out on the deck of their boats. The original Mod 0 version, developed in 1966, was deemed unsafe and not reliable enough to field. The current Mod 3 version has been fielded from 1983 to the present day. The production is headed by Seiko Defense Industries, now a part of General Dynamics Ordnance and Tactical Systems divisions, priced at $20,000 a pop. Everyone needs a reason to buy lottery tickets, right? The Mark-19 is air-cooled and belt-fed with ammunition coming in either the 32 or 48 round disintegrating links, and can send 40mm grenades at an effective range of up to 1,600 meters, almost about a mile. Yes, I said a mile. I didn't feel like using the metric system. And this is what happens when you've been out of the military for 10 years. The launcher has a cyclic rate of up to 390 rounds per minute, a rapid fire of 60 rounds per minute, and a sustained rate of fire of 40 rounds per minute, at a muzzle velocity of between 750 and 790 feet per second. The standard 40mm high explosive grenade round has an arming distance of 18 to 36 meters and can produce casualties within 130 meters and kills within 5 meters. The most common 40mm grenade type used in the Mark-19 is the HEDP, or High Explosive Dual Purpose Round, with the same arming distance, effective range, and blast radius as the HE round. The HEDP has the ability to pierce 2 inches of steel armor, inflicting casualties with fragments. Its ammunition is not compatible with the M203 grenade launcher, which is a 40mm underbarrel grenade launcher used on rifles. This is due to the fact that the Mark-19 is fired from an open bolt position, whereas the M203 ammunition works by creating pressure in the tube to launch the round at a low velocity, which is what creates that distinctive thump sound when you fire an M203. It's pressure leaving the barrel. While you're watching all these 40 mics get sent out, why don't you send a little click over to the subscribe button, if you feel like it. Because of its weight at 77 pounds, it's usually used as a static weapon in both defensive and offensive roles. It's generally manned by 2-person teams, 1 operator who's squared away, and 1 ammunition bearer who probably never passed a PT test. That's right, I'm making fun of assistant gunners. Throwing some shade today. Take that, AGs. If you had any skill, you'd be a gunner. When mounted on a vehicle, it's up to the turret gunner to manage ammo, loading, and misfires. The Mark-19 has been adapted for use on various vehicle platforms, from Humvees, the Army's Stryker, MRAPs, and Special Operations vehicles. You name it, we've tried to bolt a Mark-19 onto it. Don't put a bird on it, put a Mark-19 on it. Whether it's mounted on a vehicle or set up with a tripod on a base's perimeter, the Mark-19 is extremely effective for a variety of purposes, such as destroying infantry formations, light vehicles, disabling APCs, and destroying fortified enemy positions. The Army's field manual on operating the Mark-19 is FM 322.27, and it describes the use of the launcher within the tactical environment for defenses, patrolling, rear area security, urban operations, and special operations. So if you're looking for a good book to curl up with while you're waiting for the coronavirus to blow over, grab FM 322.27. Yeah, I can't deny that. I just quoted the FM. I went my whole enlistment without reading an FM. Look at me now. Other than extensive use by the US military, the Mark-19 is also used by roughly 30 countries, including Australia, Canada, Israel, and the Mexican Army. Extensive use in their drug war against the cartels, which has been instrumental in driving up coke prices for me. The predecessors to the Mark-19 were the XM-174 and the Mark-18. The XM-174 was an early automatic grenade launcher that was designed based off the Browning .30 caliber machine gun. It solely saw action in Vietnam. The ammunition only came in 12-round belts, but the XM-174's rate of fire allows for all 12 rounds to be sent mid-air before the first one reaches its target. It was deemed to be too fragile for use in Vietnam after US Army advisors had requested the development of an automatic grenade launcher, and was readily available to troops in the country. The problem was the weakly constructed ammunition boxes, and it was awkward and its features weren't very intuitive. The Mark 18 was the last known hand-cranked weapon developed after the Gatling gun, developed by Honeywell in 1962. The Mark 18 was an interesting case among belt-fed weapons. Instead of a disintegrating belt link, the Mark 18's grenade rounds never left the belt, with rounds coming in from one side on the belt and the empty shells coming out still attached to the links. It's a lot like a cap gun straight plastic strip. You know the cap gun I'm talking about. They used to sell it at 7-Eleven before everyone decided kids running around with realistic looking guns was a bad idea or something. The Mark 18 fired from a closed bolt rather than the open bolt used on the Mark 19. It was mainly utilized for river patrol boats and SEAL teams. Unfortunately for the Mark 18, cranking out 40 mic was just not as effective as automatic cranking. Can I say that? Future plans to improve the Mark 19 include upgrades to parts and new types of ammunition. The Army wants to replace the current barrel, lowering the resistance, thus improving the muzzle velocity. Upgrades to the cocking cam and lever, vertical cam, and round positioning block boost both durability and reliability when it comes to reloading and reducing misfires. An improved mechanical sight will upgrade accuracy in tandem with updated ammunition in their ballistics data. General Dynamics announced in 2014 that it was developing an air-burst 40mm round to be used with the Mark 19 in partnership with Advanced Material Engineering. The new round uses a programmable time-based fuse that computes and programs the detonation time into it, which counts down once fired to 0 to detonate at the intended target distance. The airburst ammunition would give it greater effectiveness and lethality, particularly against concealed and defilade targets. Although the airburst has been tested successfully, it seems the bulk of the use will be with more recent automatic grenade launcher adopted by the US, which is the Mark 47 Striker. And this new weapon was first designed in the early 2000s and put in production by General Dynamics in 2006. The Mark 47 is an upgrade to the Mark 19 with integrated laser technologies for range finding, night vision, and ballistic computing devices which allow the operator to set conditions for the airburst rounds. We're one step closer to the ED 209 robot, thank God.
20 seconds to comply.
Also included is Raytheon's lightweight video sight, a detachable video panel that serves a purpose much like a CROWS system mounted on vehicles with color and thermal video imaging. American use of this platform has mainly been with the special operations in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. Its weight is nearly half of the Mark 19, and it's able to utilize all of NATO's high-velocity 40mm rounds. Israel and Australia have contracts to order enough units to replace and phase out the Mark 19, but what are the automatic grenade launchers without some Cold War competition? In 1965, the Soviets started development of the AGS-17 in response to the Vietnamese experience going against the Mark 19, and the need to counter the anticipated human wave tactics of the Chinese that they were preparing to face due to tensions that ultimately led to the Sino-Soviet split and border conflict in the late 1960s. Using 30mm grenades in 32-round belts, the system was produced too late to be used against the Chinese, but it found itself highly regarded by Soviet troops who used the AGS-17 in the Soviet-Afghan War during the 1980s as a ground support weapon, and they also used it as a mounted vehicle weapon using improvised mounts. Two new versions of the AGS-17 have come out, the AGS-30 and the AGS-40, the latter of which switched from 30mm to 40mm grenade canisters. The position assumed by the operator of the launcher is interesting, something in between a front-leaning rest and a downward dog, in order to counter the high recoil. I guess the Russians can't be bothered to engineer improvements to reduce recoil. With the introduction of the Mark 47 Striker and plans to replace the Mark 19 by other militaries, it seems that it's inevitable that the US will phase out the Mark 19 for the shiny new high-tech death-dealing machine. The Mark 19 Mod 3 has proved itself for almost 5 decades now to be reliable, intuitive, and simple. The invasion of Iraq in the first Gulf War proved to be a testimony for the Mark 19 in the modern theater of war. Its use now is a standard for both infantry teams and weapon-mounted vehicles, especially in convoys where a healthy mix of 50 cal and Mark 19s is always appreciated. As a base defense weapon, there's nothing that says "f*** off" more than a rapid barrage of 40mm grenades. The old saying of "don't fix what ain't broke" seems to be a theme for the staples of the US military crew-served weapons. We may see more use out of the Mark 47 Striker for special operations and the like, but we don't think the Mark 19 will be going anywhere but downrange soon. Also, not having to plank or essentially squat to operate and reduce the system's recoil like our friends over in the Russian military is pretty neat. Thank you for watching our video. I'm Cappy. Task and Purpose out.